Welcome back to another episode of the Deductionist Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I hope you're keeping well and the day is treating you marvelously. We're in today to talk about the nature of what it is to pay attention in a proper way. And, right from the get go, I want you to know that this will be more of an experiential discussion. We're not going to go too far into the workings of the prefrontal cortex or the reticular activation system or the saliency network or the various neurotransmitters involved in the process. All I want to do is take you through this process that I use to develop my attention doing different things. All right, in terms of how I think about it with parts of this process. Good evening to Board. Very anxious to get the monographs to. Oh, bless. Thank you very much. Well, so for those of you that don't know, you've been hiding under a rock. Clearly, there are two different versions of the monographs at the minute. There's the paperback, the softback, and the hardback. In that way, the Kickstarter is going well. In that we've just added a second stretch goal to the whole thing. And now, if it is that we hit 75 backers, everyone gets $50 in the form of a gift card to use with MX Publishing. That's what everyone gets. I'm starting to feel a little bit like Oprah Winfrey in the you get a $50 gift card, you get a $50 gift card, $50 gift cards for everyone that backs. So as soon as we hit 75 backers, that's there. But that's not the only thing that we've got going on. It's dangerously close to me being able to launch Pipes 2 to you all. I'm working very closely with a good friend of mine, Bob Pointer, an ex Scotland Yard chap, and we have a course that's already out on Omniscient Insights, and there's various programs that we have that are coming out through there as well. So it's very exciting times in that way. Oh, hello. Adam Bloxham, do you do signed ones? I do indeed, sir. I do indeed do signed ones. If it is that that's what you want, there is a dependency issue as part of the Kickstarter, though, that we can't do the whole signed ones to all areas of the world because then they have to come to me, and it's this whole big thing because of the electronic printing that's involved in it. I'm not entirely sure how the process works myself because I'm not the publisher. But yeah, so after the fact, I intend on getting my own stock. So if it is that anybody would like a signed one, then you are more than welcome to hit me up and we can get it sorted. So yeah, that's what's with that in mind. So I love that everyone's anxious for it. I love that there's a lot of people waiting for it. But if you spent 5 minutes around me, you'll know I don't like to focus too much on sales and that kind of thing, which is lovely. It's how I pay my bills. But for these types of podcasts and things that we do, I like to focus on the kind of main conversation that's at hand. So if it is just a final word on it, if you're not part of the Kickstarter yet, you're missing out. Because there's so much going on there. We're smashing goals left, right, and centre, and it's going to be exciting times. And there's not very long left on the Kickstarter itself, I don't think. Let me double check. I think it's like oh, there you go, 9 days to go. I was going to say 7 days, but no, 9 days to go. And yeah, I think we can do 75 by then. We're up to 61 at the minute. And if it is that you get the $50 gift card and we hit 75 backers, you can get the monographs of first version in paperback or hardback, and you can also get the audiobook. And if it is that you haven't got the audiobook so far, I would just go over and listen to the free sample that they gave out, because JT, I think his name's JT McDaniel or JT Daniel, has a phenomenal voice. He's one of these refined old English gentlemen, and he sounds marvelous. And it's much better than hearing my voice for what was the first, I think it was about 14 hours. That was painful. in that way. So yeah, as this is a relaxing process, we are chilling out together, and I think I should begin talking to you about attention, right? Attention and how to pay it. When I say how to pay it properly, it's not like there is this sort of unified theorem of attention and how to use it. When I'm saying attention and how to pay it properly, I mean situationally, based on job roles that require observation in some form, right? Which could be anything from a teacher to a policeman to a marine to a construction worker and everything in between. There is a degree of their day-to-day activities that rely on the ability to be observant, right? So there are there are a ton of different factors within this. There are a ton of different factors, and there's a ton of different research that's gone into understanding what it is to pay attention and the different modes of attention that we have and the different levels of attention that we can give to any one particular thing. And the reason I am so fond of this particular aspect, would that be the right word? This particular aspect, this particular discipline, whatever the right word is there, fill it in as you go. The reason I am so fond of it is because for the roles that rely upon this practice of observation, the more you can observe, the more you can use. Therefore, by default, the more potentiality for accuracy you have in your deductions and your answers as a result, right? If it is that you were to think about attention as this thing, right? We can give attention, we can pay attention, we can have our attention taken away from us. Like, it is this little ball of activity that rattles around in our head. Job one is to stop thinking of it as that and start thinking of it as a process that kind of underpins all that you do. Right? You are always paying attention to everything. There are just certain things that take a little bit more attention, certain things that take a little bit more focus. And that is what we base our cerebral skills on, our motor skills on, right? If you think of the nature of proprioception, we are always aware of the changing levels of the floor. And yet 9 times out of 10 we don't go around walking looking straight down. We walk up because we know where the floor is. Our attention is given through the various processes that are involved in proprioception, right? So it's something that's always on. Oh, here we go. We've got a couple of questions coming in already. The greatest problem I have with attention is that I work all day, and at the end of the day, when I'm already tired, my attention and therefore observation and deduction goes out of the window. Does this happen to you? What do you do to manage it? It's a good question to address right from the get-go. Your deductive reasoning might go out of the window, but your attention won't. Your focus might. And this is where we split the difference in that way. Because when you're tired and you want to come in and sit down or just put the TV on or just lie down, whatever, vegetate, put your feet back. Put your feet back? Oh, that sounds a little bit more dodgy than I had originally intended. Put your feet up and lean back in those scenarios. Whatever it is that you do to relax, that's taking the primary focus of the link between body and mind in that way, right? That's being the kind of governing focus of what it is that you're doing at that moment. So when something arises that you are required to break down using your reasoning and critical thinking skills, you were going to have less aptitude to go at it full throttle because you're tired, because you're so focused inward, right? The nature of attention is such that it's an odd trade-off. It is an odd trade-off. in that it is very reliant on our perception of ourselves, in that I am tired, therefore I'm not as observant, therefore I'm not paying as much attention. And yet, I can still walk through a doorway without bouncing off it. I can still recognize that I'm hungry and make food when I need to eat, regardless of how tired I am. Now, there are those that would argue, and quite rightly so, that they're governed by differing processes, but we're looking at attention. So it becomes a choice as to what we drive that at. However emotionally enticing the choice might be, it is a choice all the same. So that's an odd trade-off, in that I normally say to a lot of my students that you will need to get comfortable with missing things. And yet I live by a few mantras, one of which is everything is relevant until it's not. How can you be comfortable with missing things when everything is relevant until it's not? The two don't cancel each other out in that way. But it's a trade-off, because my attention is always rattling. My attention is even kind of working when I'm asleep. Kind of. When I say mine, I mean as human beings, right? If it is that you were sleeping in a chair and someone tipped the chair back, you'd wake up before you fell over, because your body's drawing attention to this change in position that you're going through. Ugh. They touched on it in Inception, I think, the Christopher Nolan film. So attention is always going. It's always going. You choose to give it more of your focus and more of your brain power at different moments. And this is what I'm talking about here within changing the understanding of what it is in order to better use what it can do for you. Right? So go with me on this. And as I said, I'm going to keep coming back to it just in case anyone joins midway through. This is more of an experiential look at attention. I am specifically not talking about any of the neural processes, any of the anatomical concerns and the behavioral elements and the cultural issues that are concerned. I'm purely looking at how to develop my attention through the experience of using it. Right? It's a question that I keep coming back to. Why do you never make notes outside of film studies and film critics and the like? Why do you never make notes when you're watching a film? Right? It's kind of an interesting. Well, it is to me. It's kind of like a pseudo philosophical kind of thing. Why do you never make notes when you're watching a film? And yet you could sit for 2 hours outside of your house and watch the world go by and remember next to none of it, when you can remember 2 hours of a film in great glorious detail, relatively speaking, on a capacity level. Why is that? It's because our attention is governed by decisions we make. Some decisions we are aware of, some we aren't, and that's fine. But our attention is governed by certain decisions. These are connected to our emotions. These are connected to patterns that we exist in throughout the course of the day, right? You look at something like driving. You have to pay attention to what gear you're in, how you signal, the position of your seat, the position of your mirrors, things coming at you in the mirrors from behind you, in front of you, what the cars are doing over there, whether that person's thinking about crossing the road. And yet, for those who have been driving for quite some time, you just get in and go, because you become used to processing all of this data within a particular setting. So I can take that same kind of a process, that same kind of pattern for paying attention, like when I'm watching films and like when I'm driving, and start to build out this routine, this behavior, this rhythm of paying attention in different situations, right? So one of the things that I used to do years ago when I was in high school, working on these methods. This will show you what kind of a dork I am. I don't know if this is the same throughout the planet, but specific to the UK, when you're in high school, you get a planner, a 2-week planner. So you know what you're going to be doing in every lesson of the day for 2 weeks. And these 2 weeks repeat themselves. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're all the same. They just alternate back and forth. So I can look at the next day, know what lesson I'm going to be in, know what things I'm going to likely encounter, who I'm going to be sitting by, what teacher's going to be in that day, what I feel about the class, whether it's a double lesson or we're likely going to be out for dinner late or early or my prefect duties, whatever it is. And I can develop these little patterns of attention that I can do over and over and over and over and over again, right? So as I I'll give you a basic example, just because it's one of 2 classes where I actually sat at the back, not because I'm cool, because they sat you in accordance with the register, A, B, C for Cardle, and then I was kind of near the back because of how many people were in there. And so, as everyone, wears the same clothes, we had a school uniform. We weren't one of those cool places. What I would do is, as I walked past the rows, I would specifically walk the long way round so I could see everything. And I'd specifically try and remember what was on everyone's table. I could do it some days, I couldn't do it other days. Who cares? It was this pattern that I knew when I walked into this room, this was something I was going to do. So I could prepare myself accordingly. Use techniques, just engage, whatever it is. But that was the pattern that I was developing. So I was building in this base level of attention and awareness for things on tables in this particular room. Much like when I sat down to watch a film, you sit in a comfortable position. You get a cup of coffee or a beer or whatever it is. You turn the lights down low, you turn the sound up, you close the curtains. You set the scene for how much attention it is that you're about to pay. And I built these kind of moments into my everyday life so that I can get used to certain things in certain volumes and at certain speeds, so that when it comes to a particular classroom that I might not be used to, or a particular pattern that isn't specifically like the one it's based on, there are certain transient properties that exist within that attentive behavior that mean I'm not going to have this kind of, I think hypnotists call it abreactions. I'm not 100% on that. I would need to confirm with a hypnotist. I'm not one of them. But this kind of disconnect where the information's thrown at me and my first thought is, oh shit, I missed that. I'm too focused on missing things then. Right? And then you punish yourself. How do you get better? Train. Fuck, I'm so stupid. All of these kind of human elements that pop up. And yet, all of the other information, because of that, we have the potential to miss. In those, this is why it's a trade-off that way around. And I was speaking to Christian West about this earlier today, which, for those of you, if you don't know, is huge in the executive protection world. Huge in the executive protection. He's got a large base of operations in Vegas, and this is something I spoke about with Rich Mayer at Arcuri and my colleague and dear friend Jim Wenzel. The what if game. The what if game. And it sounds almost paranoid to say. Like I'll give you an example from my life. The last time me and Maddie were in London. No, that's not true. The last time me and Maddie played this game, we were in London, and it was maybe 6 months or so, give or take. after the terrorist attack on the bridge where that car had driven into all of those people. And as there you go. Craig is a hypnotist. Awesome. He's brought that up. Thank you, sir. It is indeed an abreaction and emotional overload. Thank you. I thought it was, but I wasn't too sure. Anyway, so as we're walking down the London Bridge, wasn't falling down or burning or anything like that. I said to her, "What if a car pulled on the road now, 30 meters ahead of us? What would you do?" And to put the pressure on her, I just kept saying, "What would you do? What would you do? What would you do?" This just implies pressure. In reality, it does nothing. I'm not calling for you like an egocentric customer in a restaurant. This just implies pressure. Quick, 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 quick. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do? And she had a mini ab reaction. She, oh, God, I don't know. So in those moments, her attention was gone because she had no emotional overload. She wasn't used to processing that much information, that emotionally charged, that quickly. So her attention gone. Right? It's something that the Arcuri guys do. It's something that the executive protection guys do. It's something that the guys in the CIA do as well. I would imagine it translates out to other areas, but I can't confirm that. And there was a saying that the Arcuri guys kind of coined as a result, which was the body cannot go to anywhere the mind hasn't already been, which is interesting when you think about it, right? When you think about arguments, there's a philosophical notion. It's a French title, Esprit d'escalier, the spirit of the staircase, and it's basically that notion that you only think of something poignant or a decent rebuttal after the fact when you're walking down the stairs away from the person, because in the moment your attention was gone. You're focusing on your emotions or what they're saying, how the perception of you is coming across, and you're not focusing on the thing that matters. And all of this kind of comes back to my original point: is you can treat attention like a behavior, right? If it is that therapists can help you kind of correct and manage your emotional reactions and your thought processes, in stressful moments, or whatever reason it is that people go to therapy for, somebody can help you manage how you think during those moments through specific tasks or specific ideas or specific step-by-step programs, whatever it is. Then, given that the nature of attention is such that it's governed by cerebral activity and patterns and comfort and various other cognitive processes that go into it, then shouldn't I be able to control my attention in the same way, right? There is this belief, and I refer to it as a belief mainly because the research that's gone into it that I've seen still kind of argues over the number that's involved, right? There is this belief that if you are trying to break yourself of a pattern, kind of quit something cold turkey, that once you've got past the first week, then everything becomes easier, right? And again, we can get into the neuroplasticity elements. We can get into degrees of behavior and the behaviors that are involved, different areas, different all that thing. This is what I'm saying. Experiential, right? That's a that the research discussion on attention is for another day. I'm looking to just offer some ideas for how you can think about it in a different way so you can pay more attention. How you choose to use that is entirely up to you, right? Once you've got past that first week, everything becomes easier. So if it is, then I can spend a week on something actively trying to pay more attention to it. then it's going to become comfortable. I'm going to learn how to manage that, which sounds a lot like most other things that we do. No? If I was doing a deadlift, I wouldn't start with 250 kilograms, right? I'd start with 10, 20, so on. And after the first week or so, 20, easy. After the next week, 40, easy. And so on and so forth. So if it is that I'm walking through this classroom and after a couple of weeks, I am comfortable paying attention to everything that's on the table, on every table as I walk past. What else can I add on? Right? What else can I weave into my attentive capacity? Because when you think about it, if it is that you're listening to this, chances are you're doing something else entirely. Right? Even if it's just sitting in a chair, but you're listening to this, there's so many things that you're not focused on, but there is a degree of attention to it. And hypnotists make use of this again as well. But there's so much going on. Like, I can look at you, and my peripheral sees all of this, but I'm only focused on you. My attention can be paid to all of this in terms of what I'm thinking about, the cars that move past outside, Lexi giving herself a good old scratch on the chair over there, Rufus that's just moved out of Gabe's room that is above me into Phoebe's room. I say just, it wasn't at the same time, it was a few minutes earlier, but I heard that happen. All of these elements I'm used to paying attention to. Whereas, if it was I was sitting in some other house that wasn't mine, I mean, idiosyncratic. I'm quite comfortable anywhere now that I've been doing this. The average person starting off maybe isn't. So when you sit in there's other elements. Am I allowed to sit in this chair? Is this somebody else's chair? I wonder what that was going on upstairs. I wonder if the dog has fleas. All of these kind of questions might pop up that mean your attention turns inwards rather than stays open, receptive. And there is nothing stronger, in my opinion, for robbing your attention than focusing on a mistake you've made. Right? There's nothing stronger than that. It is one of the main things that exists in roles that require observation that almost as a default force you to look inwards. And it's something that, in terms of these kind of difficult questions that get brought up a lot of the time, you know, whether it be religion, conspiracy theories, aliens, some of these apparently deeply controversial topics, could be argued that they're only controversial because people don't know what to pay attention to. Right? Because people tend to have these kind of emotive abreactions that someone hasn't listened to what they've said, or said a word that they didn't like, or something like that. You are the owner, the master, the controller, the God, the Lord of your own attention. And the more ownership and responsibility you take for that, the less it will be taken from you. Because it will be a choice that you choose to give things to. And these moments of responsibility make it easier for you as a growing deductionist to learn how to pay attention within these particular situations that you end up in. I mean, it was alluded to in BBC Sherlock. Nobody wants to hear about the cases that he didn't solve. that would depend on the purpose, surely, wouldn't it? If it is that they're looking to provide education, then we absolutely need to hear about the ones that he didn't solve. If it's looking to provide some insight into his humanitarian elements, then we absolutely need to hear about the ones that he didn't solve. So we can learn about these processes that exist. And you can start to build these patterns into your everyday life. It just requires repetition, pattern building, habit building, and take some goddamn ownership. Take some goddamn responsibility for your own attention. That means when you miss things, these mini emotive abreactions that you have will be lessened as a result. They'll never go because you are a human being, right? We're not robots, as much as some people like to pretend that we are. Which, you know, I'm starting to see more and more. You know, there is this. I'll give you an example. It was a comment on my YouTube video on Paris Bennett, and let me read to you his comment. There it is. This is the most boring and empty commentary video I have ever seen. Made by at MN9120 18 hours ago. Now I could look at that and get really offended and go, oh my God, this person doesn't like me. This person thinks I'm boring and empty, and rationalize that emotively as having my attention taken from me with the point they're trying to make. And yet my attention is mine. Right? My attention is mine. I could look at that and think, okay, well, is it boring because you have no experience in the field? Is it boring because, you know, you didn't get anything out of it because it doesn't connect to what you do? Is it boring because it disagreed with you? You know, is it, you know, all of these other things are then brought out to question the original thing. And it might be that by the end of it, his or her original point is true. It might be that it is the most boring, empty commentary video that there's ever been. But my attention in the initial stages wasn't taken. It stayed where it should be, so I can analyze and critically connect to what it is that I've seen. Right? And it's the same way as I was talking to my kids about it the other day. Uh, it's important to tell the difference between insults and attempts at insults that are designed to let off steam in their own heads than ones that are specifically designed to target you. Right? Neither one of them should be given, you know, a factual connection, because when you look at paying attention to an insult, it's only insulting if it's something you feel bad about anyway. Right? That's what, like, if you called me a dick, I'd be like, cool, you think I'm a dick. Why? It doesn't bother me because I don't think I am. Right? That's the kind of, in a nutshell, rationalization. But as I'm talking to the dudes about this, I'm helping them to understand that in these moments, their emotional kind of stability helps them navigate these potentially difficult situations, because their attention is focused on the situation rather than the effect that these words have had on them as a person, right? And you know, these kids, my daughter has to go to school with some absolute fucking demons of children. There was, in short, there was a suicide with one of Phoebe's friends. Not a close friend, but she was friends with her. This poor young girl ended her life because of online bullying. And there was still a number of kids, even in the funeral assembly that they had in her memory, there was still a number of kids laughing and joking at her expense, the young lady who'd taken her life. And they went to set up a TikTok account called the Ghost of this young lady's name. And they were commenting on videos like I'm still here, and all of this kind of thing. And Phoebes, when she was talking to me about it, was basically saying to me that it just showed the emptiness and the evil in the lives of these boys, rather than the sadness that she felt for the loss of her friend. And in those moments, she could be truthful to both things that she had going on, not in any kind of dissonant sense, but she knew how to deal with them because her attention wasn't taken from her. She knew how to deal with it better as a result because she was aware of everything that was going on in those moments. And so the capacity to bring your attention under your own control, I really, I can't kind of extol the virtues of enough, because there is, outside of the realms of observational work, there is so much that exists to kind of, I don't know what the right words are, kind of bring you down. Right? There's so much that exists to try and do that. And there are some things that require your journey through that sadness, so you come out more knowledgeable and stronger the other side. There's some that require that. There's some that don't require that. That if you are more attentive and aware of the situation, you don't have to go down this journey. You can just deal with it. You can deal with it better because it provides a kind of stability and a connection to the information that you're seeing in a particular moment. Right? And wow, that got very kind of juicy and full on. But when you think about it, you know, in the very thickest and semantic of nutshells, could you argue? And I'm asking this not knowing the answer. Bear in mind, could you argue that the the means of depression is such that you can't pay attention to other things? You only pay attention to what it is that's getting you down. And I say I'm asking that question, not knowing the answer. Right? I'm asking that. If you could provide an interrupter to that to bring your attention back under your own control, which therapy aims to do in those moments, would that be a helpful solution in those situations? You know, when you're walking down the high street hand in hand with your spouse, partner, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, right? When you're walking down and you're just having a conversation with them, are you thinking about the shops that you want to go to? Or are you aware of the things that they're talking about? And the fact that they've just pointed out some item in a shop window that they liked offhand, so that when you come back and you present it to them for their birthday, for example, it's much more of a poignant, touching moment because you knew how to pay attention. And it all falls under this kind of banner and realm of everything being relevant until it's not. When I say kind of flippant remarks that, you know, I see everything, you see everything, we see, you do. You don't see the things that are behind you. That's just an arsehole's response. But, in terms of whatever it is that's in front of you and kind of up to your periphery, you see, then you get into the realms of attention and focus. So can I get used to the goings on of a room and the information therein if I just simply acknowledge it, right? When you look at some of the super recognizer training that we have to go through, they'll show you like a video of between 10 and 20,000 people, like a football crowd, or you know, a few hours at a train station, something that has high foot traffic. And then they'll send you a screenshot of a person, you know, a grainy screenshot. You have to watch this video once and find them. Right? So in that moment, let's say you were given a you know, a photo of me. You want to find me in the crowd. You know, with me like this, give me my best mugshot face, like that. let's say that was the case. You are now going to be more attentive towards beards, bald, Deadpool hats, rope necklaces, tattoos, height, build. You're going to be more attentive to that. But in order to disregard some people, you have to pay attention to them all. Right? You have to in order to find it. Might be as quick as going, duh, duh, too tall, too short, you know, whatever it is. Might be as quick as that. And if it is that you miss during those moments, then you get a learning set. I need to get a better estimation with my height. I need to get better estimation with my gait. You know, all of these types of properties provide feedback, and this is why I say, get used to missing things. Get used to. It's not something you'll ever be completely comfortable with. No. But it will help to build the blocks towards your attention being something that you control and isn't influenced by other people as much. Okay? So if I could give you anything in a nutshell, it would be to say this. If paying attention is more beneficial to your life, paying more attention is going to, you know, add benefit to what it is that you're doing. And you're not one of these people that thinks, oh, I've got a phone or Siri or Alexa or, you know, the names just escape me. What's it called? Oh, God. Chat GPT. All of these, I've got this to do it for me, this to do it for me. Fine. Cool. If you're in that process, you are already in that camp that knows your attention can be taken from you whenever anybody wants to. Which is fine. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying there is more benefit. There is a heightened degree of awareness and capability, growth and development that you can bring to your life from being aware of more things. There is more going on. So if I was going to give you anything to manage this situation, it would be to develop habits. Develop habits and patterns that are specifically driven around attention to things. So that way, when these things pop up in other places, it doesn't require as much cognition for you to pay attention to it. Right? If the mind truly is like a muscle, let's work it out. Let's use it. Right? Magicians are very capable at robbing your attention with misdirection and pickpocketry and, you know, the cups and balls and all of this kinds of thing. But all they're really trying to do is to get you emotionally involved in one principle while something else happens over here. It's the reason Penn talks and Teller doesn't. Right? Which one do you think is the more capable magician? I mean, don't get me wrong, they're both ridiculously capable magicians. But which one do you think does the more magical stuff during their performances? This is the trade off. You know, it's the reason they have the dancing girls and whatnot. They are trying to steal your attention. If you've looked at that gorilla, I'm sure it's got a name. That gorilla demonstration, where the basketball is passed back and forth between the players in white, and you have to count how many passes are in there. All the while, this gorilla comes on, gives you the fingers, and then walks out. And because you're paying attention to this going back and forth, and the other players around are in black, you just don't notice this gorilla coming in. How about if they'd said to you, watch this and give me a rough estimation of how many passes are made? It's already a different situation in those moments, right? It's already a different situation. So we can learn to build in these kind of habits towards how we look at certain things to make sure that we are aware and attentive of more. Right? If we can see more, we can do more, and there is the potentiality for us to know more. Okay? So with that in mind, folks, these are curious now because I really am just talking to myself, and that's fine. I do it around the house anyway, but to do it for pretty much an hour straight, it's kind of a challenge. Well, let's be fair. It's kind of a challenge for me to do and not feel like a crazy person. It's not a challenge for me to do just to talk for an hour on a particular topic. So yeah, again, if you've not joined the Monographs 2 Kickstarter, I'll put the link in the description below, or you can follow me on any of the channels. But you'll find the links to the Kickstarter on my Twitter, well, X, on whatever it is now, on my Facebook and on my Instagram as well. And oh, thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. I'm gonna pop that on screen. That was great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir. Uh, Craig's having fun as well. And there we are then, guys. I wish you a very warm evening, which in England is a pleasant, kind of notion, because it's just fucking miserable over here. Oh, yes. I had, yeah, pop that on again as well. When I met you, you had memorized an entire book. Yeah, yeah. I've done many silly things like that over my time. So yeah, thank you guys for sticking around. I'm gonna love you and leave you. And as ever, don't forget to follow along. It's free and it helps me keep bringing this stuff to you guys. Make sure you share it with your friends that will get something out of it. Or, maybe they're afraid of beards. Share it with them anyway. All right, guys. Take care.